Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Last Tuesday, March 24th, was the Global Day of Prayer for China. It was also Cardinal Joseph Zen's day in court in Hong Kong on charges of, quote, conspiracy to collude with foreign forces, quote, for his work with a fund established to provide legal aid to democracy protesters facing prosecution. These charges are arbitrary and political. Cardinal Bo of Myanmar, president of the Federation of Asian Bishops' Conferences, said it best, quote, in any system where the rule of law exists, providing assistance to help people facing persecution meet their legal fees is a proper and accepted right. How can it be a crime to help accused persons have legal defense and representation? Madam Speaker, the night after his court appearance, Cardinal Zen offered Mass. He prayed for Christians in mainland China who are facing persecution at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. Religious communities in China have been facing persecution since the CCP took power, from strict laws restricting religious practice, arbitrary detention of believers, to altering holy texts, to efforts to co-opt and control religious bodies. Under the premise of public health restrictions, now the Chinese government has cracked down on people's right to leave their homes for any reason, including for religious worship. The last time I asked the Parliamentary Secretary about this matter, he told me that his government engages in Canada's relationship with China, that there are no more important issues than Canadian values and Canadian rights. He did not, however, specifically address the arrest of Cardinal Zen or the case of those arrested along with it. Sometimes it's easier for the government to talk about talking about human rights than to actually talk about human rights directly. So I hope that tonight we will hear clear and specific support for Cardinal Zen and condemnation of his arrest. Cardinal Zen embodies virtues that Canadians of all backgrounds hold dear. He is a fearless advocate not only for religious freedom in China but also for political freedom. He has been a champion of the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong for decades, an unwavering defender of truth, freedom and justice. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, democratic rights and political rights, all of these are concepts that Canadians, of course, hold in high esteem. The situation in Hong Kong has been deteriorating since 1997, but the past 3 years have shown us the length the CCP will go in order to suppress dissenting voices, in violation of the explicit commitments that they made in the context of the handover. Cardinal Zen embodies values that Canadians hold dear and the CCP seeks to quash. This 90-year-old is still deemed a threat to the CCP. He continues to inspire and give hope to Hong Kongers during some of their darkest days. Mr. Speaker, it was an honour for me to be able to meet Cardinal Zen in 2017, along with Jimmy Lai, Anson Chan, Martin Lee, Joshua Wong, and many of Hong Kong's other heroes. They continue to inspire me every day. So tonight I hope to hear the government express their clear support for Cardinal Zen, Denise Ho, and others facing arbitrary detention, and to clearly stand up for human rights in Hong Kong and beyond. Thank you.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in recent years, Canada has observed a dramatic decline in human rights and fundamental freedoms enjoyed by the people of Hong Kong. Canada first raised its concerns in November 2018 when it provided a recommendation to ensure the right of Hong Kong people to take part in government without distinction of any kind, as part of the Universal Periodic Review of China conducted under the auspices of the UN Human Rights Council. Since then, the situation in Hong Kong has continued to worsen. On June 30th, 2020, the Chinese central government imposed its national security law on Hong Kong without the engagement of its own institutions. The chilling effects of the new law and the growing restrictions on freedom of speech and freedom of assembly have been felt across civil society, academic institutions, business, and media, leading to a rise in unrest and protest on the streets of Hong Kong. The lack of clear definitions in that law and the language about its potential extraterritorial application to persons outside of Hong Kong have also raised alarm bells about the increasing reach of the Chinese central government beyond its borders. Madam Speaker, in response to these troubling developments, on July 3rd, 2020, Canada undertook a series of measures to address these concerns. These included suspending the Canada-Hong Kong extradition agreement, stopping exports of sensitive items, updating our travel advice and advisories for Hong Kong. In addition, on November 12, 2020, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, announced new immigration measures aimed at youth from Hong Kong by offering a new open work permit and broadening their pathways to Canadian permanent residency. On February 4, 2021, IRCC then announced that Hong Kong residents would be able to apply for new open work permits, beginning on February 8th. The Government of Canada later implemented 2 further pathways to permanent residence for young Hong Kong residents in June 2021. Madam Speaker, Canada has never shied away from expressing clear views about human rights in China and to express our support for Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy under the Basic Law and the One Country, Two Systems framework. Most recently, on May 9, 2022, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, together with G7 counterparts, issued a joint statement underscoring grave concern over the selection process for the Chief Executive in Hong Kong. This process was a stark departure from the Basic Law's intent of election by universal suffrage and further erodes the ability of Hong Kong residents to be legitimately represented. We are under no illusions that authorities in China share our assessment about the worsening situation in Hong Kong, which is why we are fully committed to working with our international partners and standing together with those who are seeking support. Canada and Hong Kong have long-standing people-to-people ties going back over 100 years, contributing to the diverse fabric of our country. The upcoming 25th anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong on July 1st will be an important moment for reflection about the future of the city and its people. Madam Speaker, we reserve the right to respond to any future developments as we deem necessary. Thank you.
Member for Sherwood Park, for Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, respectfully, it wasn't a trick question. I asked the member about the arbitrary detention of a religious leader and, in another case, the arbitrary detention of a Canadian citizen. And the member talked on and on, read a response about how the government has allegedly never shied away from talking about human rights, and yet he failed to address the specific cases that I asked about. We'll have to look no further from the response that was just read to see evidence of the government shying away from talking about human rights. So I want to ask the member, have the courage to deviate from the paper that he's been given and to actually speak about the cases of Cardinal Zen, of Denise Ho, of people who are trying to speak about democracy and human rights and face imprisonment in violation of the Basic Law for their advocacy. Could he name those names and address the cases?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Madam Speaker, as I said, Canada has never shied away from standing up for human rights in China or from urging the Chinese government to uphold international standards, norms, and values. Our voice, alongside those of our partners, has been heard. A growing coalition of countries around the world have joined our calls for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong. And Madam Speaker, as I said, Canada will continue to work with international partners to persuade China to live up to its international obligations. Madam Speaker, we reserve the right to respond to any future developments as we deem necessary. Thank you.